We will discuss the article Effects of Fixed Time Reinforcement Delivered by Teachers for Reducing Problem Behavior in Special Education Classrooms by Michelle Tomlin and Phil Reed as a means to highlight the principles of single subject design.
To begin, the foundations of single subject design are the concepts of experimental control with replication of treatment effects, frequently and repeatedly measuring clearly defined and observable outcomes, and measuring these outcomes in phases in which the intervention is both absent and present. These foundations allow a variety of options for single subject design.
Experimental control with replication. Much of the power of single subject designs involves replication of the basic design across individuals. A single subject design aims to demonstrate effects of the independent variable by reversing or withdrawing treatment, alternating treatments, or introducing the independent variable across different points in time for different behaviors, participants, or settings in what is often known as multiple baseline design. It is through this replication one can infer that the effects of an intervention are solely the result of the introduction of the IV and no other confounding variable.
For example, in a more traditional AB-AB design, the experimental control is demonstrated when the level and trend of the dependent variable, or the behavior, improves under the intervention condition B and deteriorates under the baseline condition A. With each replication of an effect, the internal validity of the inferences are strengthened.
The multiple baseline design was chosen for Tomlin and Reed's study. In this case of multiple baseline design, control and replication are achieved through simultaneously replicating a stable baseline of the dependent variable across the 4 study participants while staggering the introduction of the intervention. To quote 2 esteemed colleagues, Horner and Baer,
"Where intervention is applied, change occurs. Where it is not applied, change does not occur."
in the case of Tomlin and Reed, we specifically look at the staggered baseline phases and the degree to which patterns of data change in the intervention condition relative to the baseline patterns.
Frequently and repeatedly measured, clearly defined, and observable outcomes. One of the cornerstones of single subject design is frequent measurement of the dependent variable throughout the baseline and intervention phases or conditions. But let's get something straight first. In order to frequently measure the dependent variable, it is essential to know what you are actually measuring. As such, it is imperative to have observable and measurable behaviors that are operationally and clearly defined. For example, say you want to measure the construct of student aggression. We can guarantee that if you lined up 10 people to define aggression, you would most certainly get a variation of differences in the exact definition. As such, it becomes critical to ask yourself, what does an instant of this behavior look like? Or what does an instant of this behavior not look like? Or can I actually see it? With clear definitions of what you are measuring, you are ensuring not only that you are accurately and precisely measuring the behavior, but also that others, equipped with your definition, would see the same things.
In Tomlin and Reed's article, the measured behaviors or dependent variables differed slightly between the 4 participants, with 3 of the students focusing on frequency of verbal disruptions, specifically talking out loud to a peer while the teacher was instructing, and 1 student displaying oppositional behavior, specifically touching or taking items without being asked.
Okay, let's get back to frequent measurement. Single subject designs involve the repeated assessment of dependent variables on an individual participant while manipulating 1 independent variable at a time. With this level of control, single case design researchers can look at the actual change in level, the trend of the data, and the immediacy of a change in the level to determine the extent of an effect. As such, with an IV that is strong enough, researchers are able to causally state that any change in the dependent variable with the introduction of intervention is the result of the intervention. A comparison of phrases is essential for determining if there is an effect.
Measuring in phases where intervention is present and absent. Speaking of phases, single case designs consist of measuring changes between phases or conditions. Phases refer to a condition in which 1 independent variable is manipulated at a time. In the case of Tomlin and Reed 2012, the measurement of the dependent variable, which is percentage of intervals with disruptive behaviors, is completed throughout the duration of the study that includes the 4 phases. Using a multiple baseline across participants design, Tomlin and Reed implemented 4 phases across 4 participants.
In each phase, the researchers worked to only manipulate one independent variable at a time. In baseline, teachers were instructed to do business as usual. There's no manipulation. In intervention, teachers implemented a fixed time schedule of reinforcement that was independently determined from the mean latency of the individual student's first occurrence of problem behavior. During this time, all other variables were constant across conditions. In the thinning condition, teachers implemented the systematically thinned fixed time reinforcement schedule. Again, other than the intervention, all other variables were held constant to the extent possible in the thinning condition. In single-subject design, each participant serves as her or his own control, as changes in the dependent variable between phases are compared. In Tomlin and Reed, an immediate change in level and an improving trend were observed for 3 of the 4 participants.